Hello, everyone. I would just like to welcome everyone on behalf of Metropole Alliance on e-justice and blockchain, which is also the first webinar organized by the association since its establishment. My name is Y.Georgiades, and I'll be the words about Metropole Alliance. It is an international association of lawyers and professionals with members from across the globe. It has been registered as a non-profitable organization under the laws of Belgium and has been operational since February 2020. The president of the association is Mr. Y.Georgiades, who will also be presenting the topic of e-justice today. And the main objective of the association is to bring professionals together to create business, feed off of each other, and create long-lasting relationships. As you know, our guest this evening is Mr. Alexis Nicolaou, who is the CEO of BlockCo, and currently on the board of directors of Grant Thornton in Cyprus. He has over 25 years experience in accountancy, finance, electronic banking, and electronic banking software. His specialization is specifically in digital currencies and blockchain technology. Mr. Nicolaou will provide you with all you need to know about blockchain in his presentation shortly after Mr. Georgiades'. But first, we will welcome Mr. Y.Georgiades, the president of Metropole Alliance and managing partner of Georgiades & Associates, a law firm in Nicosia, Cyprus, who will give a presentation on e-justice and the importance of incorporating technology in legal practice and judicial procedures. Throughout both presentations, please feel free to send any questions you may have through the chat feature, and we will address your questions in the third part of the webinar. Please welcome Mr. Georgiades on e-justice.
Dear friends and colleagues, thank you so much for joining this webinar. I hope that soon we'll be in a position to have a physical meeting in Cyprus or any other country, so we have the opportunity to see each other again and have apart from working together, to also have a drink and enjoy together good moments like we used to do before. It's true that pandemic has had a very negative impact on all of us, on the economy and on a lot of people's life. But at least it forced us to use technology in a much better way than we were using it before. Today I will present you an outline, rather, my thoughts about the e-justice and the necessity of blockchain. We all know that justice generally is a very important element for every nation. It is helping a lot to establish democracy, and of course it is something that it helps generally the economy of the countries. When we have a transparent and user-friendly and efficient rule of law, this boosts the economy, and of course it attracts foreign investments, improves the workflow of the judicial system. I mean, we know that our judicial system is already overloaded in most of the countries, and for years we're struggling to deal with this matter. Of course, what we are trying to do now is to use the existing technology and transform justice to the so-called e-justice. It is an opportunity now because we already, I mean, technology is already part of our life, and we use it already, and we understand its usefulness. However, it's not packaged and is not used globally so well, and it hasn't been introduced, of course, in the justice system, at least in most of the countries. Basically, in simple words, justice is using the technology and introducing the technology, rather, in the justice system in order to improve it and make it more efficient. This has been acknowledged a decade ago by the European Union. That's why they started working on it, and they started thinking of ideas how to develop it and transfer this to all the European countries. And they made, since 2019, they made two papers, the so-called EU strategy and EU action plan, where they're covering different subjects, and they're aiming to improve different aspects of e-justice. Or familiar, at least the lawyers, with the e-justice portal and the EUR lex. These are something that they have developed already by the European Union, and you can visit and see them, and they're very useful, and they're still developing. But at the same time, they are concentrating on other aspects of e-justice, such as artificial intelligence, and they're trying to develop a tool which would be analyzing the court decisions. This kind of tools, I think they might have been in the market, but what the European Union is trying is to actually organize this and trying to encourage all the European countries to introduce it and use it. Of course, electronic payments of court fees is another area, video conferencing, which we have seen now, at least not in an organized way, but in a forced way. We all started using video conferencing more often, like we do now with this webinar, but also there are countries already that they use video conferencing for trials. And also then trying to encourage this in the online, the so-called online dispute resolution, like in arbitration or mediation. In those papers that the European Union have prepared, and they are renewed and extended, and now the last one, the recent one, is until 2023. Their main objectives is this you see now on your screen, is trying to promote to all the countries the use of e-justice, to introduce e-justice and to educate people. And their objective is to make a judicial system, as we said earlier, more effective. In doing so, they also introduce a structural reform support service, so-called SRSS, which helps countries to adapt themselves to the e-justice and introduce e-justice according to the guidance of the European Union, and also through funding. They're also monitoring the development of the countries, and this is the most recent, the so-called EU Justice Scoreboard. I just got this to show you that it was done, though the last one was done, the monitoring in 2018, and it shows the development of countries according to how to submit a case, is a green line, how to transmit summons, and also to monitor stages of proceeding. So according to, they monitor it according to these three elements. And then you can see that a lot of countries are very well advanced. And Cyprus seems like, and Luxembourg, it seems like they're at the bottom. But it shows that it's an organized kind of procedure of slowly encourage all member states to introduce fully fledged e-justice. I would say it's an ideal time now, and it's much easier than it probably used to be 10 years ago to introduce e-justice, because, I mean, in the legal practice, at least, we know that although lawyers they say they're very slow in developing in technology, which I think might be true, still today, we at least know, all of us know what is the cloud. We know how to do legal research, e-filing. We know about the e-signatures, verification systems, video conferencing. We know about the email encryption. And of course, we're getting aware of other technologies like smart contracts. So we are actually not so ignorant, and we are more adapted to this. So I will say that it's maybe a good time for moving towards introducing e-justice. One of the countries, okay, and of course I will say that in the private sector and the professional lawyers, they are aware of technology and they're using it. But the other thing is in the public sector, that people should be adapted and be comfortable in using this. Estonia is one of the countries that is considered to be as one of the best examples for introducing e-justice. They chose a technology which is called KSI blockchain, which is used also by NATO and the US Department of Defense. And then they basically use this in all areas, not just in justice system. They use this toward the different healthcare, property, business, succession registry, and of course for the digital court system. And they, at the same time, they have developed the e-filing, which was started by the government in 2005, a long time ago. And they also developed their court information system, which was launched in 2006. And they have a fully digital court information system and information encryption. You can see on the diagram how it works. They have a general system, which is a filing system, where it's everybody can file through that center point their whatever they want to file. And then, depending on the subject, it goes to the relevant department after that. So it's a centralized point. Other countries, you can see on your screen, they introduce kind of e-justice. Is Italy with the so-called toll. Then is England and Wales for the electronic filing. And then is for the EU is the e-codex, which is useful for exchanging of judicial data, and etc. Other countries that they have also been quite advanced, believe it or not, is China. China created the so-called smart courts and the internet courts. They use technology to create the so-called e-justice by also using blockchain. And the reason they use blockchain is, I think, in my opinion, it's necessary to use blockchain because it provides more security, prevents fraud, and it's actually something that it can prevent people from tampering the system. And that's why they did that, in my opinion. And it's something that we should all think about. Once we introduce e-justice, we should also think about that. So China has introduced this. They have they also think that this is the internet court. It's a way, it's like an incubator, which can basically use it as an example and create e-justice physically in physical courts also. Other countries is the United States, of course. The United States, I remember, of course, United States in 2000, when I was attending an information technology conference organized by the IBA in Chicago, they were already well ahead in a lot of things from that time, the US. Of course, now, I wouldn't say that the comparison to the rest of the world, they are so ahead in the justice system, although they are in a good state. So yes, US is known for being good in the electronic filing and the e-discovery. Now, in Cyprus, like in Estonia, of course, we have introduced the technology in the different areas, like a companies registrar, the land registry, social insurance, and tax department, by using the Ariadne government gateway portal. This is actually being used for some time now successfully. Also, we have, the only thing we are lacking, of course, is to introduce the e-justice we have a very good database by using the silo. But as far as e-justice is concerned, we are also one of the countries that have been encouraged, and we get support by SRSS. And we had some developments recently where we introduced the Deputy Ministry for Research, Innovation and Digital Policy, which is headed by Mr. Kyriakos Kokkinos, who is very good and very dynamic, I would say, in introducing technology. And he contributed a lot in creating the e-justice platform in Cyprus. And it was ready to be used on a temporary basis. And it actually started as a pilot. And we had also our office the experience of trying it. And we went through a training for that, like other lawyers. And it was supposed to start in 8th of February, probably. But because of some fears, I would say, and worrying about the public officers not being ready. Some others were saying maybe the lawyers need more education, and all these discussions. Unfortunately, they have paused even the interim kind of introduction of the e-justice system. And the Supreme Court of Cyprus has announced just briefly that they will be considering ways of introducing it soon. And they left it, we don't have any follow-up until now. So it's there, and we would like to congratulate also the people that they were leading this initiative. But it remains to actually introduce it, to start to put it in the court. So it seems like sometimes justice technology might be on your favor, you can do it, but then there's a human element again that they need to be used to use it. I hope we overcome this soon. Now, it's one thing to introduce, as I said earlier, the e-justice, but it's another thing to avoid any bugs, any insecurity problems, any hackers, any of all these things that we are all scared, and it's part of internet, cybercrime. So we all know about these things, but that's why when it comes to blockchain technology, in my opinion, blockchain technology, I will not really pretend that I am expert in and know all the technical aspects of blockchain, but believe me, somebody advised me that it's not even necessary to know all the technical aspects. Of course, Alexis Nicolaou, who will speak to you later, he is more technical and he will probably explain to you more things. But people told me that it's like the internet. We don't know exactly how it works, but we use it and it's useful. It's like the electricity. We don't see how it works, but we get the benefit of it. So blockchain, I think it has a very simple definition on the screen there, which describes you more or less what it is. But for me, what is important is that is secure because it's decentralized. It's like a ledger where we put a lot of records there, and they are not controlled by a specific institution. There is a variation of this. This is a public, of course, chain, but there is also the judicial alliance chain that, like they did in China, where it's different institutions together, which is again more or less decentralized, but it has an element of control. But you can see there that okay, it's resilient-wise because of its technology, and then it doesn't allow changes. It's not easy for anybody to amend anything. So it provides security, authenticity, transparency, efficiency. The unchangeable transactions make it very, very good for introducing the e-justice. And also it prevents fraud, like we get nowadays through the internet. I don't say, of course, it's perfect. I'm sure there must be ways that somebody could argue that it has also some weaknesses, but overall is considered to be an ideal platform to use when we introduce technology in all levels, and especially in justice. Blockchain, I think, is something that I will not spend a lot of time on blockchain, because I will allow Alexis to speak about blockchain. But it's important for us lawyers to know that although through blockchain and the creation of smart contracts, which is basically transferring normal contracts to some smart contracts, we might think that we lose work, but at the same time, because blockchain is a technology that is coming, we should all get adapted to blockchain, because it will also give a lot of work to those who are specialized and then aware and understand at least how it works in the legal practice. And smart contracts might reduce also the litigation and disputes, but at the same time, it could give rise to the need of lawyers advising people and also lawyers who are necessary to be there in order to create the smart contracts. Smart contracts, they will be used together with artificial intelligence, and they will be able to automatically allow people to work together and make contracts. And they could also give remedies that we don't have today. For example, if you have a tenancy agreement and you have a smart contract, and by using artificial intelligence and technology, then automatically, if you don't pay the rent on time, then the door of your apartment, if you're a landlord, can be locked automatically. Or if you have a hire purchase car, for example, and is not paid in time, again, there would be a mechanism where your car engine will be stopped or the doors will be locked, for example. This is just examples I have read going through, and for me also to understand the usefulness of smart contracts and how they will work. And of course, as lawyers, for our lawyers, blockchain is also a way of authenticate electronic evidence or any other evidence that it can be uploaded on the blockchain. So it's something that we should all, I will advise that all of us should be working well in and educating themselves of blockchain. I don't want to take more of your time. We could say a lot of things. We have more time to listen now to Alexis Nicolaou and maybe some questions after Alexis. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to Mr. Georgiades. We will now introduce Mr. Alexis Nicolaou, who will give his presentation on blockchain. Thank you very much, Mr. Nicolaou.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Yannos, for the invitation. Thank you, the Metropolitan Alliance, for the opportunity to give this presentation. Allow me a moment to share my screen. Thank you very much. Now, this crisis has made it even more evident that governments and private institutions alike need to expedite the use of technology for improving the effectiveness and the efficiency of their operations. What this crisis has highlighted, here we go, is the need to go digital, the need to improve efficiency through technology solutions, the need to go remote, the need to reduce physical evidencing, to increase digital security, to learn to trust in technology rather than people. We at Block.co and the University of Nicosia believe that blockchain technology has a big role to play in this transformational process. Blockchain is a database that is actually shared across a network of computers. Once a record has been added to the chain, it is very, very difficult to change. To ensure all copies of that database are the same, the network makes constant checks. So a definition of what blockchain is, you can actually see on the slide. Now, the records are bundled together into blocks and they are added to the chain one after the other. The basic parts of a blockchain are the record, which could be any information, a deal, or a certificate, for example, the block, which is a bundle of records, and the chain, that is all the blocks that are linked together. Now, the whole point of using a blockchain is to let people, in particular people who don't trust one another, share valuable data in a secure and tamper-proof way. That's because blockchains store data that is actually using sophisticated math and innovative software rules that are extremely difficult for attackers to manipulate. What makes this system theoretically tamper-proof is two things. A cryptographic fingerprint that is unique to each block, and a consensus protocol, which is the process by which the nodes that run the network agree on a shared history. The fingerprint, which is actually called the hash, takes a lot of computing time and energy in order to generate initially. It thus serves as proof that the miner that does the work, that added the block to the blockchain, did the computational work in order to earn the reward that goes with each block. It also serves as a kind of a seal, since altering the block would require generating a new hash. Now, verifying whether or not the hash matches its block is easy, it's much easier. And once the nodes have done so, they update their respective copies of the blockchain with the new block. This is what's called the consensus protocol. Now, the final security element is that the hashes also serve as the links in the blockchain. Each block includes the previous block's unique hash. So if you want to change an entry in the ledger retroactively, you have to calculate a new hash, not only for the block it's in, but also for every subsequent block. And you have to do this faster than the other nodes that can add new blocks to the chain. This is all the technical stuff that we'll be talking about today. So don't worry about it. So unless you have computers that are more powerful than the rest of the nodes combined, and even then success isn't really guaranteed, any blocks you add will conflict with the existing ones, and the other nodes will automatically reject your alterations. This is what makes the blockchain tamper-proof or immutable. Just a quick comparison between blockchain and database. As already mentioned, the structure is distributed within a blockchain, whereas databases are based on a client's server. Authority is decentralized compared to a centralized authority for databases. The cost is much higher in setting up a blockchain. That's why the existence of so-called second layer applications like our solution that sit on top of blockchains, making it much cheaper for organizations to have access to that blockchain compared to the cost, of course, of database, which is much lower. On blockchain, you can only read and write, whereas on a database, we'll know that you can actually delete stuff. Integrity, thus, is very high compared to a database. Performance, slower. A Bitcoin blockchain transaction, actually 4 to 5 transactions can take place in a second, where Visa, for example, can process thousands of transactions in a second. And transparency, much higher in blockchains rather than databases. Now, a blockchain-based digital government can actually protect data. It can streamline processes, and it can reduce fraud, waste, and abuse, while simultaneously increase trust and accountability. On a blockchain-based government model, individuals, businesses, and governments share resources over a distributed ledger that is secured using cryptography. This structure eliminates a single point of failure, and inherently it protects sensitive citizen and government data. A blockchain-based government has the potential to solve some legacy pain points and enable the advantage that are listed on the slide. It can secure storage of government, citizen, and business data. It can achieve the reduction of labor-intensive processes, of excessive costs that are associated with managing accountability. It can reduce the potential for corruption and abuse. And finally, it can increase the trust in government and online civil systems. Digital government was meant to have addressed these problems. However, multiple legacy systems, highly centralized databases, and insecure data sharing have not really brought the benefits that digital government promised. This is largely because these overly centralized systems with inherently insecure first-generation online e-government systems are easily hacked and prone to fraudsters. Blockchain-based digital government will address many of these problems. Most obviously, it would provide a secure storage of citizen and business data provided to government. Blockchain-based government can address other problems that are faced by government, including, for example, reduction of labor-intensive processes. Due to the need for oversight and control, public sector administrative systems are based on high-cost, labor-intensive management systems. Smart contracts, as Janos already mentioned, combined with intelligent automation and process automation, alongside blockchain's ability to store all transactions in an open, accountable way, means that government can become more open and more flexible. Some cities are already moving in this direction. For example, I know that Vienna in Austria has announced it has been steadily rolling out blockchain use to validate and secure the city's open government data, including public transport routes, train schedules, and voting results, believe it or not. Now, prior to the blockchain initiative, the more than 350 siloed databases had been managed by different offices. The intention of placing the data on the blockchain is to create a more open and participatory city with reduced bureaucracy. Similarly, Delaware in the US has moved to the so-called smart UCC filings, a uniform commercial code. Uniform commercial code blockchain will automate the release or the renewal of UCC filings and related collateral. It will increase the speed of searching UCC records, and it would reduce mistakes and fraud and cut costs. Now, the opaque and complex nature of many government programs leads to real or perceived corruption, abuse of power, and felt unequal access to power and government benefits of government programs. Via its open accountability nature, blockchain can dramatically reduce the potential for corruption and abuse. Numerous blockchain initiatives have entered this space. For example, one such is the UN World Food Programme initiative that conducted a pilot project using blockchain to manage cash-based transfers to Syrian refugees so as to increase transparency, to eliminate leakages, and to reduce transfer costs. Now, it could combat the lack of trust in government and online government systems, the complexity and the difficulty in understanding processes of government, make it difficult to understand what is actually happening within the government, and how the taxes that we pay are converted into public programs. Blockchain, by creating an accountable, a traceable record, will dramatically increase the transparency and improve the understanding and thus public trust in government. Now let's quickly have a look at some of the use cases of blockchain in government, most of which could be implemented using our solution Blockhost technology. The education sector, first and foremost, a great beneficiary from the introduction of blockchain, especially in the area of document verification. Ministry of Transport, another beneficiary, especially in the management of vehicle-related activity. A few use cases have been identified for the police force. We're in fact discussing a POC with the Cyprus police force, with our product's QR code functionality being particularly useful for on-site validation processes. Register of companies, probably my favorite, perhaps because I have personally suffered so much from the inefficiencies of the current system. Every time I need to open a bank account for a company or participate in a government tender or had to verify the authority of a person that is in fact signing a document on behalf of a company. How the health sector will be transformed through the use of blockchain technology is very relevant given the recent developments. Blockchain enables the secure and structured data sharing among the medical community through decentralized databases. These structures work to protect patient data and privacy and allow doctors visibility over their patients' medical histories. They also empower researchers to use this shared data to propel scientific progress. Blockchain solutions enable structured data ownership through privacy and permission layers that are built onto the blockchain. While patients are unable to change or delete specific medical information that is being put by doctors on their profiles, they can control access by granting full or partial visibility to various stakeholders in the healthcare ecosystem. Drug supply chain management becomes more secure and accountable with transparency, immutability, and interoperability that is introduced by blockchain. Local authorities, they also stand to benefit significantly from the implementation of blockchain-based solutions, whether it is for the issuance of all the certifications or for citizen incentivization. For example, think of how you can incentivize citizens to recycle waste or to control water usage. An authority we're engaged with is in fact looking at launching its own digital coin, digital currency. Finally, a bit about the University of Nicosia and Block.co, its spin-off. The story of Block.co can be traced back to 2014, when the University of Nicosia identified a need for secure and self-verifiable credentials. A growing market in forged credentials and the vulnerability of certification documents in the face of man-made and natural disasters meant a solution was increasingly necessary. Now, given University of Nicosia's early immersion in the blockchain world, with the launching in 2014 of the first masters globally in digital currencies and blockchain technology, it was clear to them that blockchain technology was best suited to fulfill that role. Why? Because they had to find a solution with certificates that would be vendor independent, that would be without a central point of potential failure, and that would outlive even the issuing institution itself. So in September 2014, UNIC became the first university globally to experiment with the deployment of blockchain in the issuance of academic certificates. They were confident there was no safer or more secure application than that of blockchain technology, and particularly no safer blockchain than the Bitcoin blockchain. It quickly became clear that it was not solely academia that could benefit from the reliable credential authentication that blockchain technology offered. And Blockco was born with the objective of taking these initial learnings and expanding the product beyond education to other industries, as well as government, indeed to any organization or sector that issued documents whose authenticity and immutability they wanted to secure. Some facts about the UNIC. With over 40 members of staff specializing on blockchain, we are participating in numerous projects and consortia, with the consortium in which we participate currently being the operator of the EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum, whose purpose is that of mapping key initiatives, monitoring developments, and inspiring common actions in the European blockchain space. UNIC runs a community of decentralized chapters around the globe, from New York, London, Mexico, 38 in total. What is our mission at block.co? Our mission is to eliminate document fraud anywhere, and we do this by transforming the way that institutions manage digital records. One major problem that our society is currently facing is that of fraud. Fraud is present in almost every aspect of our lives. It is well embedded in government, in business. It is at the core of our society. A close 2019 report on the cost of financial fraud showed that global losses of fraud equate to 6% of global GDP, or over $5 trillion US, 80% higher than the UK's entire GDP. A big chunk of those trillions in fraud relates to the cost of fake documents, which we come across in almost every shape and form. Fake certificates cost society billions of dollars, found a recent study by the Journal of Economic Issues. At block.co, we offer a solution to the problem with fake documentation of any type. Our solution has certain features that make it a most attractive proposition. Validation of those documents is done independently of the issuer. It is a solution that has no vendor dependence and that would outlive the issuer itself. It is a simple to use solution, as this ease of use, as Janos said, is what people are really looking for. I don't know how the internet works, but I still get on a browser and surf. It is built on the most secure of public blockchains, and it adds value to the efficiency of operations of any document issuing department. Sorry, my screen is frozen. Anyway, I will finish up. We help our clients with the issuance of the client's electronic document. We help with the validation of the authenticity of those documents, the revocation of those documents should the need arise. All of this is done, as I mentioned, in a very simple process of dragging and dropping documents onto our platform and an online validator that helps to check the validity of those documents. There we go. Yes, just to close off, some of the use cases where our technology is being used within the legal profession. For example, we have partnered with legal officers in order for them to secure intellectual property rights of their clients, copyrights, patents, contracts, and NDAs can actually be safeguarded and time-stamped. I'm not sure if Janos mentioned it, but the Cyprus government is looking at introducing in the second half of this year legislation that is actually establishing evidence anchored on the blockchain as evidence submissible in court. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and open to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Alexis, for your very thorough presentation and your insight into blockchain. I'm sure you will have a lot more things to learn in the coming years on blockchain. We have a few questions for you. The first question is blockchain more favorable to specific industries, or does it apply to all industries?
Well, let's face it, the blockchain is not a panacea. You cannot use blockchain in everything. In fact, I always, when I get this question, I always remember a cartoon I saw somewhere on the internet. It was the CEO going to the CIO, telling him, I hear this blockchain thing is pretty good. Shall we get one in our company? And the CIO goes, what color would you like it, purple or green? And he goes, I think I'll go for purple. So now, blockchain is not a panacea. It will not add up value to every industry. It adds value to industries where there's a need for people to put their trust in technology rather than each other. In industries where you need the benefit of the security that is derived from the characteristics of blockchain, the way I described earlier. Some of these industries have been identified, of course, supply chain, education, the legal profession is definitely a beneficiary, shipping industry. So there is a number of industries out there. Of course, the financial sector, it was actually the first use case with the launch of the cryptocurrencies. So the more people learn about the characteristics of blockchain, the more they actually see how it can fit into their own company operations. But definitely it's not a panacea.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. One more question is probably what everyone is thinking about is blockchain actually immune to attacks or hacking?
Given its technical characteristics, yes, it is immune. There has been talk of how quantum computers will actually come and affect the immutability element of blockchain. Although quantum computers are way ahead from where we are now. The community is developing the technology all the time, and this even when quantum computers do come across, there will be solutions there. But yes, blockchain is immutable because of how it operates. As if you remember from my slide, I will use the example of the Bitcoin blockchain. There's thousands of those distributed ledgers around the globe. There's in fact 2 such ledgers that go around the orbit around the Earth on satellites. So for somebody to be able to tamper a piece of information that is found on that distributed ledger, they have to hack every single one of those databases, distributed databases, every block that has been added after the one where they want to cause the damage, and they have to do that within 10 minutes, which is the time it takes for another block to be added. And even that simple description gives the extent by which a blockchain is in fact secure.
Thank you. And we have a question for Mr. Georgiades, a legal matter basically. Whether there are any conflicts between the implementation of blockchain and the GDPR directive.
Okay, the GDPR directive regulation has been discussed a lot, and in relation to blockchain, there are a lot of discussions. It could be another webinar just on this. But what I would say is that because of its nature, blockchain, it seems like it's conflicting with some of the definitions and articles of the anonymity, the anonymous data, or the issue about the controller. Who is the controller? And the way it's distributed the data. There are issues. Some people, they even say that maybe whatever uploads on the blockchain, it doesn't amount to data. I believe it must amount to data. But there were a lot of discussions. For those who are interested to look at it, it's prepared by the European Parliament, called Blockchain and the General Data Protection Regulation, and it was published in 2019. And is discussing a lot of things in relation to blockchain and the General Data Protection Regulation. And then, of course, they're not the blockchain, but is whether how it is used blockchain that we should look at. So they're making some suggestions in their conclusion that we should make some guidance about this to educate people who are using the technology, how to avoid conflicts with the GDPR and all this. I think at the end of the day, the enforcement of GDPR, and it's a useful tool or even for that. Therefore, it seems like at the end of the day, might appearing to be a conflict, but at the end of the day, it's a matter of how to educate themselves, the people that are in blockchain, in order to avoid conflict with GDPR.
If you allow me to comment on that as well, Janos, because it's a question we often get asked. The issue of blockchain and GDPR compliance is one that will be discussed for some time still, and until legislators decide to do something about it. GDPR legislation was passed in a pre-blockchain era and was fashioned with an implicit assumption that a database is a centralized mechanism for collecting, storing, and processing of data, which of course is no longer the case, especially with public blockchains. In discussions we had with MEPs, they confirmed that GDPR legislation is meant primarily to protect against very large corporations that exploit their users' clients' personal data to make a profit. Some such cases I'm sure you heard of. On the positive side, both GDPR and blockchain at heart share the objective of data sovereignty. So blockchain could become a tool to achieve this objective. Blockchain could, in theory, make it easier for platforms and applications to become GDPR compliant by having this compliance inserted in the code, thus supporting data protection by design, one of the law's primary objectives, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you very much. I believe we have no other questions, so we should close the webinar. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you as our guest. I don't know if Mr. Georgiades wants to say something before we close the webinar.
I would like to thank all the participants. I would like to thank Alexis, the Bloco and the University of Nicosia, and all the members of the committee and of Metropole Alliance who joined the meeting, and all our members. This will be recorded and also circulated. Therefore, even people who didn't manage to see, they'll be having the opportunity to listen to this webinar. So thank you all so much for coming, and hopefully soon we'll be able to organize a big Congress in Cyprus or in another country. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Good evening.
Thank you very much.